And we're live. Hi everyone. Welcome to another instalment of Train Your Dog Month. I'm Patrina Firth from the Association of Pet Dog Trainers, and I'm going to be hosting a fabulous amount of APDT trainers this month. And tonight I'm joined by Georgia Selby. So welcome, Georgia. Hi,
Hello.
Georgia.
Hi up, everybody. You all right?
Can everyone hear us all right? Can everyone see okay? Just say a little hello in the comments if we're coming through all right. Let's have a little look and just see.
Tell you what, paying them people to come and see me. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone's getting a tenner in the post. Yeah, we've got nine people watching so far. Sandy's watching. Jeanette's watching.
Oh, hello, Sandy.
Hi, Sandy. Good. All right. So, Georgia, you're a Gundog trainer. How about you tell people how you got into Gundog training?
Okay, right. Well, blimey. Quite a story, but I won't try and... I know we won't go too long into it. So I was originally a pet trainer, but I always felt like there was something missing for me. So I originally, I grew up on a farm. I was really fortunate. I had a really good life, and I grew up on a farm. So I've always been around the working side of dogs, the working life, and especially the country life. So I always felt like I was missing something. And I was really fortunate who we've just said hello to, Sandy. Sandy invited me onto a shoot, because she asked me if I wanted to go. And I was like, yeah, of course I do. Brilliant. So I went and I was stood with her with the Goldies, and when you just know that moment, I was just stood there and I was like, I'm home. I could smell the gunshot. I was on a farm shoot at the time. I'm watching her Goldies work, and I had these huge goosebumps, and I just felt, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to do. And I have quite an obsessive nature. When I'm passionate about something, when I love something, I will go gung-ho on it. And I just, from that day forwards, I was like, right, this is what I want to do. And this is where obviously Barry came in, which you've seen obviously a little bit in my bio. And he was my first gun dog. Blimey, I have a nickname for him, but I won't say it. People who know, you can message me. I was really fortunate. I had Barry, probably my biggest teacher. He was a working cocker, quite challenging. I mean, well, not quite challenging. He was challenging. I nearly quit my career because he was that challenging at one point. So you can ask me questions about that, go for it. But along that journey, obviously, as well as Sandy, I was really fortunate that I had, obviously, Mancini. A lot of people know Chris Mancini. She was always behind me. Jules, Sue Watkins, and I went on this journey of discovering and learning everything about Gundog, and also going on the shoots, experience, and now also I've gone into the trialing world, as well. So now I've also training a lot with the trial people as well, which has been opened up even more doors and more knowledge for me, like I could ever experience. So really, it's been quite that journey from that magical moment to I'm here doing it full time. And I tell you what, it's the best thing I ever did, and I wouldn't go back. I absolutely feel at home in what I do. So yeah.
Lovely. Can you talk to us about the different types of gun dogs? If people are watching and they're like, well, what is a gun dog? Maybe you can help them out.
Yeah, of course I can. So obviously we have the Spaniels, which is the breed that I own. I also do own terriers, but I predominantly work my Spaniels. We have the Retrievers. We have the HPRs, which means Hunt Point Retrieve. So that's like your German Pointers, you call for Griffons, your Vizslas, stuff like that. And then we have the Pointer and Setter groups. So we have the 4 groups, and they all have different jobs. So the Retrievers are there to pick up the game. That's their main priority job. Don't get me wrong, they can be quite little all-rounders, but their main job is to pick the game up. So whether that's on shooting or wild fowling, or even on the trials, their job is to retrieve the game, basically. Then we have the Spaniels, which hunt the game out, but they work at close range. So again, that's whether it's in a beat or on a rough shoot, they're really good, because again, they can be little all-rounders, but that's their main job. Main job is to flush the birds or even ground game like your rabbits and stuff. Then we have the HPRs. the hunt point retrieve. So they hunt, they are better suited to your larger grounds, especially those who might know of the grouse moors and stuff like that. They suit that ranging a lot better where they can range, because that's what they do. They point upon as they hit the bird. They point, the owner will either ask them to, the handler will ask them to go in, flush the bird up. They have to be steady to the bird. So when I mean flush, that's pushing the bird out to be shot, and then they go and retrieve. Then you've got your setters and your pointers, and their job is to point upon. So they let the handler know. Sometimes handlers join them, some will flush it up, and then another dog might come in or flush it up. Or even sometimes, like we were talking about a little bit before, sometimes they use birds like your falconry and that. So there's quite a variety. I mean, Gundog is huge. There's quite a different varieties out there. What type of different shoots, trials, tests, all sorts. So quite a lot of variety, really.
And do you work with all Gundogs? Are you quite happy to work with all of these kind of Gundogs?
Yeah, I enjoy all of it. Even though I work spaniels myself, I absolutely love working all the other breeds, because all the other breeds can teach you so much, and they all, when you watch them all individually and what they are built and bred to do, it's just stunning to watch. And to be honest, later down the line, I wouldn't mind a couple of different breeds as well myself, as well as my spaniels. But yeah, so I do work with all the breeds and I love it. I know I'm no more majority for my hunting breeds, so that's like your HPRs, your spaniels and your pointers and that, because I do love watching and working hunting dogs, especially hunting up on things. There is nothing like it for me. But I have a lot of retrievers on my books, and I thoroughly enjoy them, because at the end of the day, they still have a job and they are stunning to watch. So yeah, I do all of them and love every single one of them, and everyone is different. Every dog is different, and everyone challenges me, and I just love it.
And I'm just going to drop a couple of comments in, just because we've got some fun comments here which should make people laugh. And I know you told me about this one from Carol. Georgia even works with Ted the cocky poo. I love that. I've not heard that before in all the years that cockapoos have been around. Cocky poo, but that's brilliant, because some of them are.
That is my fabulous client. Thank you for coming in, Carol. Cocky poo that's another thing. I do work with crossbreeds, and I also work with non-working breeds who like to do Gundogs. So obviously, example there, we've got Cocky Poo or Ted. We call him Cocky Poo because, my God, he's a phenomenal little dog. That dog lines himself up with the retrievers and holds his own. I also have a little Patterdale Terrier that I train, and she's just as phenomenal as well. So yeah, I'm open to other breeds and people who might want to just do it for a bit of fun, because that's what it's about. So thank you, Carol.
I guess it's one of those things that, many breeds of dog could do these things. Like, I remember when I came up to the lakes and we were doing tracking, and I've got a French bulldog, and she went and did some great tracks. She's not bred for that. So it's just that she probably wouldn't win at a trial. But she'd have fun. And I had fun training her. Yeah.
Exactly. And like I said, and the thing is, when you see these other breeds, because there's a lot of mixed breeds we know with Gundogs, they still have their outlet and their need, what is needed. And the fact that, what the funny thing was with Carol is, she just turned up for a puppy class, and before you knew it, she's gone from wearing a red coat and a hat, and now she looks like me, and she turns up all these years later, all in green with a little Cocky Poo, who's ace little Ted.
Oh, traded in the heels for wellies or something, right?
Oh yeah, she does the whole gear. She'll even probably comment about that
now. Chris the Mancini has said Mabel can hear you and is shouting.
Hi, Mabel. I better say a shout out to Mabel.
Well, and Mabel's a little collie, isn't she? And she does Gundog stuff as well, I think, doesn't she?
Yeah, she's a phenomenal retriever. And you need to watch her stalking at heel onto retrieves. By God, it looks brilliant. You got the collie store, yet with the epic line of the retrieve. Brilliant.
And Sandy just said Jeeves very proud of his mention. So Jeeves, one of the retrievers in those pictures, if everyone can see it there, a working retriever.
Yeah, and he's the one who gives me the goosebumps that day. My God, can that dog work? Blimey, what a dog. What a dog. He's my boy.
And your famous little catchphrase there.
Hunt together, stay together. Thank you, Beth. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that's my favourite motto.
So
I live by that.
you work gun dogs. How do you translate that to your pet gun dog training work? You know, if I was to turn up and I go, I've got a 12-week-old, say I've got a show cocker spaniel for argument's sake. I haven't done that thing where I live in the middle of Manchester and I've gone and bought myself a working cocker, which does happen, obviously. I've gone and bought a show one because I'm like, oh no, I just want a show cocker. I just want the look. What would you do with that dog and what advice would you give me?
So for me, with that, I would still, and they wanted to say, you know what, I want to come to the gun dog. I want to do, because actually I have got a show cocker on my books, you know, and he's absolutely fabulous. Yes, they are not as drivey, but they are still spaniels. You know, they still got their nose, because actually they can be quite ground scented. I find with the show cockers, they hold a very deep and quite thorough. So actually, they are just as important. And I say, just go with the journey, and I say, advise them, and I explain that they still will chase, because I know a lot of them. I've had a lot of show cockers come to me chasing birds and being quite vocal. They're quite a vocal breed. And I do very similar what I do with the working. I just basically guide them in and what I recommend. So example, when it comes to chasing and stuff, I am quite cautious in what people do on their walks. I mean, I know this won't suit everybody, but me personally, if it comes to especially anything that likes to hunt and stuff, you have to be careful what you do when you're out walking. So I personally, with my own dogs, I don't walk them every day. It doesn't benefit them. They do other things. They actually suit training, because sometimes you could overexpose these dogs to violence, especially if you're not engaging with them. They'll go what we call self-employed. And so when we're talking even the show cockers, they can do the same, because they still got that work in them. They still want to do stuff. So I say, let's go for the journey. And they are just, in fact, the only difference is they're probably a little bit more calmer.
Great.
But yeah.
And what kind of exercises might you give somebody with a working dog that maybe doesn't want to go out on shoots?
Oh God. Well, I've got a lot of clients with me already who don't want to shoot, don't ever want to see a shoot, but they just love the layers of the training of it. So when they're first coming in, so okay, let's say a HPR or something, I have to say to them, you have to accept they're going to range, and you have to embrace the ranging, because obviously that's what they're bred to do. So I teach them how they can, like, when they're out and about, they can get the dog to move across them, turn with them, find things away from them, because that's what they'd do. They'd find it away, go and learn to point with them, you know, learn to stalk upon things when they do. Instead of fighting it, you learn them to be steady around it, you know. And also the biggest thing for me with anything is teaching connection and learning to switch off, because people don't know how to teach these breeds to switch off.
And when you say ranging, what do you mean by that? Going a long distance, or?
So the spaniels, let's say, they quarter very close. And what I mean by quarter is they do this like figure of 8 pattern, and we want it very close, because they have to be thorough in that game finding, because a lot of birds hunker low, you know, they get deep into things. Where on them moors and stuff, especially with the HPRs and the pointers and the setters on that, they are bred to really sweep the air, and they're air centers. So they're out there with the air signal, so they'll come upon it, but they are there to run. And my God, when you see them work, they're not slow. But that's what happens. I see a lot of people go, oh, my dog's going miles off, I don't know how to control it. And you teach them that they learn to turn with your body, they learn to go with your whistle. And by doing stuff out there in these different environments and cover, the dog is getting that outlet, but at the same time, the owner's learning to how to manage it and control it, and the dog's doing it with them and not independently.
Brilliant.
So yeah, so by the range, it looks a bit like, I'm trying to say how it looks. So I'm trying to get my camera here. So imagine I'm here as the handler. Okay, we would what we call cast the dog off. So we would be in the areas when we cast, we're not setting it off to hunt, as we say. And we'd cast it out, and that dog would go out. Let me go the other way because you can see. Go out, come round, and sweep that area and just work it. And there's nothing like seeing them work, but you're doing it as a team. That's the biggest thing. Is you might send that dog that way as it goes out. You're turning your body, and they're coming across you, and you let them know, spot on, good boy, good girl, bang on, find them, have something to find, and all that is. you can do that without ever having to see a live game in his thing, but it's something the dog is getting and the owner's having fun with them. And that's the biggest thing, because a lot of them get these breeds and they don't know the lineage. You'll be surprised how much is online where they say, right, active dog, needs 2 hours stimulation, needs this, needs that, walking, but they don't actually say what it's bred to do. And when we give that dog something to channel, because they want to work, that's why they go self-employed, because they're like, no one's giving me anything to do, so I'll seek it out. And by giving them something to do, the owner can have a really nice rounded pet, but it's getting an outlet. And that's why I'm very passionate about having the pet people on, as well as the ones who want to go on shoots, because I think these dogs need it. You can't fight it. You fight it, that's where the problem comes. And also big one I was speaking to you before about was, when you give them that outlet, you're also supporting a lot of behaviour. I see the ones that are not getting that outlet and the behaviour manifests like none tomorrow. So yeah, I went a bit off there, sorry.
No, it's fine. It's good. Everybody wants to hear. We had 50 people live watching a minute ago. No pressure.
Oh, blimey. No pressure. Hi, everyone.
So, and in terms of like games and maybe enrichment, I'm guessing your dog's enrichment is going out on hunts. That's what supports their daily biological needs and mental needs and things like that. If someone was at home and they wanted to do enrichment, is there anything that you kind of get them to do?
Yeah, so actually, the only time my dogs particularly work is through the season. So the rest of the time they have to be training. So they have to be in training for things, and they also have like the summer working tests and that. So in that thing, I'm always doing stuff with them, but not on live games. So we are doing the retrieving exercises, we do the hunting exercises. So like example, if I'm doing some stuff with my spaniels in the environment, I might put a load of balls down, or I might put them in certain different covers that has got a bit of scent, and then I'm dropping things at my feet for them to find. So it's always about getting the nose down. And it's like, again, with the retrievers, you know, the amount of levels and different type of retrieves there is phenomenal. So when they come to me and they start learning, these are things they can take out on a walk, do at home, set up, put retrieves out in certain areas, hide stuff, and they can be setting their dogs up here. And this is such good enrichment, and it just benefits them like none tomorrow. So yeah, there is plenty you can do. And like I said, hide balls, get your dummies, put stuff out, go along like paths and walls, walk your dog up, throw a dummy out, walk back, send them back for it. You know, all of this is things you can do, and it's just, yeah.
Yeah, and do you find people, it's human nature to want to go 10 steps ahead at all times. So actually teaching the dog to learn in the first place, that initial kind of search thing can take a bit of time, and people need to be a bit patient with that. You know, you can't just lob a dummy out. Yeah, and there's many layers. So my lot, it doesn't matter where you've been or what you've done, you go through many layers. You start your foundations, because you want to make sure your foundations are in place with anything. So your recall, your steadiness, your stop whistle, everything like the basics to keep that solid. Because I always say, if your foundations aren't solid, the rest will fall apart anyway. So we teach them the foundations, and then we say to them, you have to build in your layers, to take your time. And they are, you know, I'm really, really fortunate with my clients, they do. But also each dog is different. So I also have to train to what that dog needs and what that suits. And certain breeds definitely take longer to mature than others. You know, so if I say somebody comes to me with a HPR and a point of setter, I literally hold their hand and go, right, we've got 3 years till it might turn into maturity. So let's just put a big pants on. We're going to sail by the wind, but you'll get there. Just be patient. And like, you know, as well with behavior work, that anything can come into factor. So every day I just go with what that dog is showing, what it needs, where its level of maturity is at, and what it displays me, really. So I have to go by every dog as individual. So yeah. Yeah, although there are, of course, there's been a lot of talk really about, studies have said that this isn't the right thing, that we shouldn't label all these breed things, but there's definitely breed isms. There are things. You're talking to us about understanding the Gundog breed, and your Gundogs, Spaniels, even motivations will be much more different to Caris, who's talking to us about bull breeds at the end of the month. But of course, you get those variations within the breed. Like you said, one of your Spaniels is not that confident, so his personality might be different to another Spaniel who's like, yeah, let me at the world.
Exactly, and I do find as well, and when you start learning about the different lines with the different breeds, you sort of get to know what's coming around as well. Because a lot of the time, so I particularly pick Sid and Jimmy, who are trial bred dogs, because that's what I want to do. So they are hot, they are drivey, they are not the easiest to live with unless you channel them. But I know each trial line that I've got, that with the dogs that are in it, I sort of know the personality I'm going to get. I knew with Jimmy's line he was going to be sensitive, because I know especially his grandfather is quite a sensitive dog. And I knew with Jimmy, and I knew with Sid, it's going to be bloody drivey, hard, and with serious nose. And I'm going to have to sit. And he is. He's like on everything. Everything is 100 miles an hour with him. But I pick these deliberately because of what else they give me. And I love it because each one is such a different journey. But yeah, learn. I always say to people, if you're going to get your gun dog, ask about their lines, ask about the history a little bit, because you will understand what is going to come through to you. So they, and that is a big factor. But unfortunately, there's not a lot publicly out there until you really delve that can give you that information. So.
And I think for the sort of the general public, they just want a dog a lot of the time. They want a dog.
Yes.
And they possibly don't understand the difference between a working dog and a non-working dog. I have a lot of clients, and these are quite the sexy, popular fox red Labradors who are working dogs. They're working lines. And people just want a red dog, don't they? They want a nice ginger dog because they're pretty. But these things want to do stuff.
Exactly.
Not just...
And I actually have asked people, is it working? And some people don't even know. Mm-hmm. And some people have said, well, they're full of these red on the pedigree, and there's apparently the dad won loads, but I'm not sure, because the mum might, because a lot of times some pet people will breed their pet spaniel, let's say, or pet Labrador, and see, oh, there's a top dog winner, and stick it in and then sell it to the public, and not really knowing, I'm not saying all do that, by the way, but not really knowing, and the public are not knowing what they get. They just say, oh, it's a winner or something, great. But actually what they've got is some hard hunting machine that is bred for competition. But my job is not to judge that. My job is to support that owner in that and say, you know what, it doesn't matter. It is what it is. This is what might you get, but let's channel it. So, yeah.
Because also, if you give them the outlet when they need it, when they're at home, they are quite chill because you've given them all the stuff that they need to stretch them. So one of my favourite... Go on.
If I could show example, he's probably stuck his little head up. I don't know if we can all see him. But there you go. There's a spaniel switched off.
Yeah.
So, but that's because I work his brain. I work that nose. So it's the same with all of them. And sorry, Patricia, I interrupted you with Jimmy.
No, just one of my favourite classic client quotes, and it's not to make clients feel bad or anything. Is when I've said to them, "Is that are they a working one?" And they go, "No, we're not going to work them."
Yes, yes. I don't mean that. Yeah. It's brilliant. But I'm really lucky. A lot of my clients, if they're not sure, they go, "Do you know what, Georgia? I'm going to get the pedigree out," and then they send it me. So that's really nice. So I get to see what's coming, what's it looking like, everything like that. And then they get interested, which is good for them. So it's brilliant.
Yeah, great. And do you see many sort of behaviour problems come up, or what kind of things, what things do people typically come to you, not as a behaviourist, but as my gun dog is doing this, and what can I do to stop this? Do you see a lot of resource guarding, which is then sort of fixed by giving them a job, or?
Yeah, I see a lot of resource guarding. I see a lot of obviously chasing wildlife. That is a big one. Even I have seen some for chasing cars, spaniels actually recently. I did pass out on behaviour, so I said I will support them, but they must see a behaviourist for that as well. I do know my limits as well, but I do think that was because it wasn't an outlet being given. Again, what she's quite common with springers and stuff is obviously the shadow chasing and things like that. Eating things while out, carrying unfortunate things. A lot of people go, my dog's carrying everything in sight. And also a lot of them can be quite grumpy with other dogs. And people don't sometimes realise there that these working breeds, they're not interested usually. They're a little bit like, I want something else to do and I've got a job to get on with. But yeah, I see a lot. I know my limits on behaviour work and I try and work. I do know I've got a good behaviourist I work with if I need that support. But I do find once I start doing the Gundog, a lot of these things start to, let's say, disappear a little bit. And, you know, because a lot of people battle, like, let's say, resource guarding. A lot of these dogs that are resource guarding is because people are constantly taking stuff from them. And they are like, I don't mean to, like, have something in my mouth. It's just my, what's the word, disposition to do it. I want to carry your slipper. I want to carry the remote, you know, and then the battle begins. But I teach people how to say, you know what, let him carry, get them to teach him to bring it to you. That's the best thing.
Yeah, I was talking to a lady yesterday on email and I didn't have a clue what her dog was. And she said, oh, you know, when I come in, the dog grabs my hat or my gloves or something. And I said, well, a lot of dogs find, you know, I don't know what kind of dog you have, but if you have any kind of retriever, they find it really self-reinforcing to have things in your mouth. And she replied and said, yeah, I've got a duck tolling retriever. And I was like, bingo, give it a toy. It'll be fine. Yeah. Give it something to hold.
Exactly. And I always have something for mine. I can see, like, I always have a toy for somewhere, because when mine get excited, they're like, right, I need to grab something. And then they come wiggling at you, like wiggling there with something. But I've always got something to have that outlet from. And I do from a puppy. I'm always making sure my pups have things. And if they do pick up stuff that I don't want to pick, I just teach them to bring it to me, because the last thing I want them to do is not trust me or think I'm going to take. And sometimes things like your slippers, I hand it in back a lot of the time. Take it back, walk off. Take it back, walk off. And before you know it, they're not particularly wanted it. And also, like you said yesterday, we were talking about management. Management is also an important tool with these breeds. You know, you do have to sometimes say, if you don't want them picking up certain things or worried about things, we have to use management as well. So yeah.
The talk with Jane yesterday was on management was great. So
yeah. And we use a lot in Gundog, trust me.
We've got a little comment there from Rachel Sadler. My old boy was a retriever cross and would greet me with literally everything in his mouth. LOL. Just put that on the screen. I don't know if anybody's... Lovely. Yeah, and also I remember as a kid I used to see this old man and he'd walk to the paper shop every day, and every day his Labrador would carry the paper home, and I just thought, oh, it was so lovely. And the dog was just, you know.
I love that.
Really
right,
nice.
Come on then, let's get our daily news.
Has anyone got any questions? If you've got any questions that are Gundog related or training related, if you've got one for Georgia, just pop them in the chat. We'll open the floodgates, because we've been chatting for 28 minutes now and we thought we'd do 15. So there we are.
Oh dear. Here we go. Me gone on again.
What do you think your next dog will be and when, Georgia?
Probably another cocker because of the journey I'm doing at the moment. But I've always had a thing. I do like the ranging breeds. So, you know, I'm quite torn between one of the HPR breeds. But I've always had a bit of affinity for, like, I do like them, the English Pointer. There's something very charming, very... God, one of the oldest breeds as well. Yes, Sandy, I will have a Goldie one day. Don't I promise you that?
Yeah. It's funny when you meet... Go.
Go on. No, go on.
I was just going to say, it's funny when you get people and they do have their type of dog. So we both know Sandy up in the lakes, and she always has golden retrievers, doesn't she?
Exactly, yeah.
That's her type.
Exactly. And I know I'll have a Springer or something like that as well. It's just at the moment I don't have the house. Yes, Beth, I just said it as Beth put it up. I will have one at some point. But obviously with my home, I can only have so many, because mine live inside with me, and on the couch, so I can only fit my couch for so many. And it doesn't affect working by sitting on your couch.
No, definitely not. Joe Hoskinson said, any tips for beagles? Do you get many beagles come to you?
No, I don't.
No.
I don't. But we know they are big on their fox scent. We know they're big on their trailing. They like to make it a bit of noise when they hit scent. You could give them an outlet because they like to track. You could teach them to track other things, really, so that you can go out tracking with you. Because I know they cannot always be the easiest off lead, especially if they get on the track and they run forwards and follow the scent. But at least you know where the beagle is because you can usually hear it. What I would say is do some tracking with them, really. Get them using that nose of theirs because they are phenomenal little hunters, really.
Yeah, they've got a very strong work ethic. The thing is, they want to do it all the time.
Yes.
They're not very good at I don't find anyway, they're that great at being like, no. Right, so we're not going to work now. They're like, no, I want to work. They're quite determined dogs.
They're quite foodie, aren't they, as well, beagles?
I
remember when I asked. Mega foodie, so use it. I think with them, the way if I visualize how they work, I think they would suit tracking. You can even learn about deer tracking as well. There's some great places out there where you can learn to deer track, but obviously when it comes to tracking and dogs like that, you want to be careful what you expose, and you want it on leads possibly, because you don't want, we know beagles when they slow and then they get it and then they shoot for it. And that's when you hear the vocal, but that's what they were bred to do. But again, they're phenomenal to watch. I have seen them in action, not obviously online because that's not allowed anymore, but to see them on the drag scent is quite phenomenal. So yeah.
We've got everybody, I'm going to bring these up just quickly, saying she needs a flat coat.
That's my client. Love you,
we
Sue.
Love a Don't rule out flat coats.
Yeah.
Get an Arthur. Whatever I'm guessing you know who Arthur is.
He's a door, he's my other client. Oh, I love you lot. Thank you, guys. He's a legend. They're all legends.
And then we've got a question here from Alexandra saying, would love to start our working cocker on some gun dog work. Can you recommend any good online resource to start or a good gun dog trainer in Gloucestershire? Now, I know for a fact that Georgia has actually got a YouTube channel, and I've put the YouTube channel in the description. There's not a great deal of videos up there, I have to say, but I feel like after I say this, Georgia might put some more up because I'm going to put some pressure on her to do some.
You know what? I technically have got about 200 videos, but obviously they're private use for clients.
Clients,
I'm quite careful what I don't put too much up too soon, but yeah, I have got some to give you up to start with. I'm trying to think in Gloucestershire. I'm trying to think if Thorpe's near there. Jill Thorpe I know she's anyway, so she might be down there. I could easily look that out. So if that person wants to send me a message, I'm just trying to think of the southern trainers that I know, which roughly the areas they are. But there are some fab trainers you could get working with for sure.
And also, if you pop on the APDT site, you can do find a trainer on there, and it will say whether they do gun dog work, so you can have a look at the Gloucestershire area.
Yeah, absolutely.
And see whereabouts they are. I'm not sure where I'm just thinking of somebody here. I know that Katie Aldridge, who's coming on later on in the month, has got an online gun dog academy, and she's a dog trainer behaviourist as well. Yeah. So
you have quite a lot of communities out there, retrieving our trainers, GTA, other trainers. There is quite a few out there that are doing the online stuff, and there's also some good books that we've got from APDT members, isn't there, as well? Like Jane Arden, Joe Loren, and a couple of others that are good. Like again, retrieving occasions from the ladies in Europe. There's some really good stuff out there if you do your research. And like I said, if you want to message me, I can send you a load of links and stuff of other people. So yeah, so it's good.
And Kim's asked, any tips on steadiness training would be appreciated. And yeah, English pointers.
Steadiness. Oh, okay. Steadiness. So it's first of all, especially with these hunting breeds, you want to be careful what you do regarding when you're outside on your walks. Try not let them chasing things. I personally don't allow my dogs to chase anything. I have to work on the steadiness. I play a lot of games with steadiness, so teaching them to be steady onto the flush. And what I mean to the flush or the point for your pointers is that when something goes up, they learn to not chase it. And I do have a little game for that. So if you want me to message for that, I can happily do that. I do a lot of placeboard work to build in the steadiness. Sit stays are another one. But obviously with your breed, it would be more of a stand stay because they're not usually comfortable in a sit. Two, they wouldn't flush, and when they're in point, they're in a stand. So I would teach them stand stays, but I would then build up many layers of things moving around them, from ground game action, front game action, things coming off chase. Movement's the big thing with our breeds, is that going for movement. But again, it's them many layers, and you build them layers in for steadiness, and it's game on, really, because they can. And it's teaching impulse control, even simple things. And I know not everyone does this, but I personally do, is from things like managing going through doorways, managing sit stays for your food, doing a little bit round foods and stuff. And the reason being is it's them learning to manage when things are going on around them, because a lot of these dogs, when they're steady, it's things they want. So we want to build in these sit stays or that steadiness, these sit waits or whatever, that they can manage what's going around. So I throw a lot of things around my dogs. I put things out that they want. I walk them around them. I recall past them. All this is steadiness work. Even putting a simple retrieve out is steadiness work. Dog working at your heel. And when they learn that, it helps them be able to cope. Because I want mine to put in that predatory state sort of thing and learn to manage that emotion of I want that, but I can still listen to that cue in that moment. That's the big thing for it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of criticism, isn't there, about, oh, why would you teach your dog to do this? And because it comes from that old-fashioned sort of, we don't need to be dominant over dogs anymore. But actually, a lot of those skills were taught because they teach frustration tolerance, and they teach dogs that they can feel this thing, but actually they've got to wait until you say you can go and do this. So it's that frustration kind of muscle that we're building.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even if the...
And
Go.
Exactly. And we're building that arousal. We've got to, in the end of the day, in a shoot field, they have to be steady. They have to listen to everything you're asking of them, because at the end of the day, some people are paying for it, depending what shoot you're going on. Your dog can mess up a lot. Also, your dog can lose the plot quite quickly. And you want these dogs to build into that environment and learn to listen to you at every stage. And at every stage, really, on a shoot, it's steadiness. All of it is steadiness. So by teaching these little layers, like simple things, like I said, around a food bowl, you start to teach that dog in that headspace that it can manage itself without having to be on it, sit down, wait, and all that. You don't need to do that if you teach them with them layers. They learn to cope. My Sid, you can see him, when he first went out, he remembered everything I was teaching him. He's like, oh, because you taught me to be in this headspace, I can cope with that bird going in front of my face. Whoa, that's gone. He won't go when he first did it. He went, but then he went, I've done this before. I recognise this. And I said, leave that. I had a strong leave that, put him back in the scent. He went in. He could cope with it because I'd ingrained that in him, and that's all he's known. And that's why I'm a big believer that's why I don't particularly walk them all the time, so they're not exposed to that free running, chasing everything. So when they come out into these environments, all they know is their job in hand. They're like, this is what we do out here, and all that is steadiness.
Excellent. I think that's answered her question. Laura's asked if you've worked with many poodles. Now, I don't anyway, see that many poodles in the UK working as much as we do on mainland in Europe, where they work poodles a lot. Let me just put that up there.
No.
Have you worked with many poodles? Hi, Laura. My son-in-law has taken their standards out on a few shoots. They were happy to flush or find the fallen birds, but then asked the labs to pick them up. There doesn't seem to be many breeding working lines.
No, but there are out there, and I do have a little poodle. She might be watching tonight. Lovely Rachel Richards, another fabulous APDT member. She brings her poodle to me. She's a little miniature one. Hopefully I've got that right. But she is a phenomenal little retriever. What a powerhouse. So yeah, I don't, she's the only one on my books. I haven't got any of the larger breeds, but yeah, they were originally bred to work. They are fantastic dogs. So yeah, I find that they really take to it. I think the poodle, I think a lot of them poodle breeds, the Spanish water dogs, the legatos, I think they're underestimated. Get them out there, guys. Get using them, and I think there are people bringing back in more working lines in these breeds, because even down to your Dachshunds, and I know they're not particularly gun dogs, but a lot of the Germans are breeding the working lines back into the English, and that's coming through a little bit. So they're there. Channel it.
They're great little dogs.
I love them.
I'm a bit of a Wirehead snob. Like, they're the ones for me, the Wireheads, because I find they are a bit more gamey. And I absolutely love them.
Love them.
And the standard full size Wirehead Dachshund, I'm in love. I'm so in love.
They are phenomenal little dogs. They can hold. They're in the beating line. I've seen them in the beating line.
Yeah.
They're brilliant.
I bet
They are fantastic.
Yeah. Nice little comment from Kim. Thank you. Lots of pressure to use the shock collar in the States because you need an extension of your arm. Well, we're APDT UK, so we don't allow any aversive tools or equipment.
No.
Georgia doesn't use those either. Doesn't need to use those.
No. I always say, when it comes to punishment anyway, in this game, is we have to reflect on why we have needed to use that. If you have needed to use that, it's a reflection. If something goes wrong in your training, my clients on here will know what I'm about to say out. It's feedback. We just have to take it back a few stages, look at what the setup is, and go from there and find out how we can manage that behavior and teach the dog what we want instead of what we don't want.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
and that brings us up to this comment from Nick, which says, my Millie, a 6-month-old Cocker Spaniel, she's a strong puller. I've been told to use a slip lead. Would you agree with this to help her heel work? And we've got a spammer on the comments, so I'm just going to go and clean the comments up. It's because this is so popular that someone's decided to come on and post some spam. Carry on, you answer that question.
Oh, wow. So I personally don't train any dog on a slip lead. The only time they go on a slip lead is when they can walk at heel. And I actually use what I call a limited slip lead, which can't tighten. So it can't tighten, it's quite thick. And I like my dog's name along. It's like Warlord or Barry the, or Jimmy this. And it's quite a thick one, and it doesn't tighten, but it still does the effect of a slip lead in a sense. You can slip it off. And I'm known for it on my shoots. I'm known for it when I go training. It's very differently to all the others. And if they do slightly pull at times, it won't damage the neck or anything like that. But me personally, I try to teach all my clients to teach on a flat collar or a harness. I don't care what you turn up, as long as it doesn't affect the dog. Because at the end of the day, for me, when it comes to heel work, it's about teaching the position, not the equipment. And a lot of people focus more on the equipment than actually. And I personally teach lead work or heel work off lead first. That's how I like to do it. My pups are not usually on a lead for quite a while because I'm busy teaching them off lead. So I'm a bit of a big advocate for that. Another thing is you have to also, again, always read the dog's emotion, because some dogs pull and it's not always just about getting to A to B. It could be something from the emotional. So we have to take that into consideration as well. So yeah, if you've got a good trainer, they'll know how to train that heel work for you, so that because we do need a slip lead, unfortunately, when we're out and about on the shoots, because at the end of the day, we can't wear collars, especially those that are hunting, because they could get stuck in the undergrowth and it could be very dangerous. So we have to say, like we would say, they're naked when they're going in. But we are legally allowed to do that on the shoots and that, but it's for safety reasons why why they don't wear any equipment. That's why we use slip leads. But I personally, like I said, I prefer to use my limited. I do have other slip leads, but because my dogs can walk nicely at my thing, I'm not bothered about using them. But I would not put one on a dog can pull, because obviously it's going to choke itself. And I certainly don't teach it the way that some might use that equipment.
Yeah, I've always said to people, if they have said to me, like, can I use the slip lead? Why do some people use slip leads? And I said, if you're getting your dogs out of a Land Rover and you're going to a shoot, then you put a slip lead on them, because it goes on and it goes off really quickly. And also as a safety thing, I think sometimes in rescue people have used slip leads.
Yes.
Yeah. Because they've needed to with that particular dog. But I think as a training aid, totally inappropriate. And for the majority of pet dog owners, totally inappropriate too. And I think I saw a lot of social media today. Even some guy liked a thing on the APDT page, and I went onto his page, and he was over in America, and he looked like he had these lovely dogs, and I was looking for the remote collars, and I couldn't see any remote collars, but what I could see was slip leads really high up on all the dogs, and I thought, yeah, I know how you're training, so, and that's not what you want.
No, and here's another thing, especially because you've got a cocker. Now, cockers are not genetically to walk in a straight line. Their genetic is to zigzag, and their head is to be on the floor. So they find it challenging. And I'm not going to lie to you, even me as a trainer, I always find that they find off lead a lot easier to do heel work, but on lead it's a long battle. I am still not 100% there with my Sid, and he's 18 months old. I am not shy of saying that, because he's a cocker, and in certain environments they're really stimulating, so he wants to pull. I just have to build it in, and it's still he's getting loads better, but it's took time. Also, he's an adolescent male, we know how that is. These things take time, and let's face it, actually, out of all the things a lot of us teach, heel work is one of the most hardest things to teach, and it has to be goddamn consistent, and it does take time, because it can be monotonous. And I make sure it's fun. There's plenty of games you can play for off-lead heel work, because I find when you teach the spanners off-lead, and a lot of the other breeds off-lead first, then I can translate the lead over and use the cues that I've been teaching. It makes the transition a lot easier. Oh, hello, Sid. Did you hear me, darling? A little Sidley heard. Come on, boys. There you go.
And Rachel said it's lovely to hear about not using slip leads, as every positive punishment, negative reinforcement trainer uses them. But anything can be a damaging tool. You can use food. I mean, there are a lot of circus dogs and things like that, and even zoo animals, where food deprivation is actually they're using negative reinforcement, because that food is depriving the animal, and they're so hungry, so they have to do the behavior in order to satisfy that hunger. So even food can be abused in the wrong hands. So
and I'm a big believer in some people say, I come with my fed my dog, and I say, please feed your dog before you come training. I actually find with the hunting breeds that if you don't feed them, my God, they hunt 10 times as hard. It kicks in something else on an instinct, because I do know some people on shoots don't feed the dogs because they believe that if there's an accident on the shoot, that they'll need to go in operation. And for me, I think you need to fuel that dog correctly. So it's properly, because all this does emotion, the gut is a big player emotionally as well as well-being, and we know that it can affect massively. So
yeah, absolutely. Good. Well, we've got okay, Twitley's heel work in the same county is good.
Yeah.
And I think
got it.
That heel work actually feeds back into that point that you made about, like, maybe not walking your dog every day, is that when you take your dog out there, it's a training opportunity. It's not going for a walk ever, really. It's a learning experience for that dog. And I think people get really bogged down in, like, that we need to get into a routine of, I walk the dog to the park in the morning, and the dog drags them to the park in the morning because their expectation of being at the park, and also because it's just that's what they do. And it's like, well, no, just walk around the block or walk up and down the same street and practice some lead work. And you're
exactly, and people don't realise how tiring it is, do they? I like you, and I'm a big believer in is the worst time to train your lead work is to the walk. The anticipation is so great. And with heel work, especially your young puppies and your young adolescents, their brain cannot focus for that long. So we have to do little and often, and you're better going up and down in your kitchen than out in your garden, up and down the drive, building up. And if you've got trouble getting to the walk, drive to it. Do a little bit before you go out, and then deal with it, and then build it up and go backwards. I've told people to go backwards on it, It depends on the breed, and some of them are mighty strong dogs, and when they are fighting, I want to be in everything, we have to really break that down to make it sure that they don't. And like I said to you earlier with Barry, he was a dog that didn't like food, he didn't like toys, and I trained him with the environment. And heel work, I use the environment. If you heel with me, you get to get some more hunting, you get to go through that hedge, and that drove his behaviour like none tomorrow.
Yeah, when me and Georgia were talking earlier, we got a little bit, I mean, I think we could probably just talk for hours, us two. We got a bit more into, what intrinsic rewards of hunting versus extrinsic, I'm going to put treats in your mouth is, and what dogs do and what they like to do and how you can work with that, which we won't go into now because it's quite a big topic.
It is. It is. But what I will say is, with these working breeds, observe what they enjoy, build it into your training. Like I said, some will like hunting. Sid loves to run. That's an intrinsic thing for him. I built that into his retrieve. So he used to go past me, and what he wanted to do was run around with it. So I said, here, I'll run around with something else. And that brought him driving the retrieve into me. Look and observe what your dog's doing. Not everything is the food or the toy. How could that toy and that movement that they're using, how could that food move? Do they want to catch it? Do they want to chase it? Do they want to scent it? Or is there a certain point of the environment that they're enjoying? Go with it. Watch them. Because actually you're giving them what they need, but you're using it to your advantage.
I can hear your dog. Aww. And just a nice comment from Tamsin. Also just lovely to be realistic and say how hard it is, even for experts in their field, relatable and empathetic for clients. Yeah. I mean lead walking is possibly the hardest thing you'll train your dog to do. Literally. It goes against every bit of their nature, to walk next to you, really. So
it does, and we have to be real. And I'm very honest with my clients. I tell them my own personal journeys, my own personal struggles, because in this game, especially with the Gundog breeds, I have a lot of clients coming to me with their knees on the floor. Please help. This dog is hard work. Honestly, I've had people in tears in my field because the dog has become so out of control. And it's only because they've not understood it. And you have to be there to tell them your journey. That's why Barry's a very good one for me, because I tell them about the difficulty I had in my own personal journey with a dog as a trainer. And I said, I've been there. So when these people who are listening, if you're having them difficult dogs, trust me now, I have been on my floor with my dog. He was that challenging. So just be aware that you can do it and you can come through it. And with the right support and right trainer, you'll get there.
Excellent. Great. Okay, so we'll finish there and let everyone go off and we'll all have some dinner, including the dogs. Is there anything any final comments you want to say, Georgia?
Everything is feedback. Those who want together stay together. And thank you very much for anybody who's tuned in. I thoroughly enjoyed myself tonight. And if you have them Gundogs breed and you're nervous about coming into Gundog training, go for it, because honestly it's huge. And trust me, you'll be addicted to it. So yeah, enjoy your dogs. Hey, innit, boys? I'm glad they both come on.
Excellent. Well,
thank you.
That just leaves me to say thank you so much to Georgia. We've now been here for 52 minutes and it's gone really quickly. Tomorrow I am joined by another APDT member, Annette, and she's going to be talking to us about why don't our dogs listen. So it's going to be all about engagement and building blocks to training and things like that. So hopefully you can join us then at 6:00 tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.
Lovely to see you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Oh, yes.